going to try to make this quick because I just got myself off of work. I'm very tired. I just had to run some computer diagnostics and I'm really ready to get myself some rest right now. But I can't rest until I address a few more things about cunt huntress or general fat ass or whatever it is that she wants to go by now, or however she wants to be referred to, because of the fact that she just wants to keep going on this whole routine. Now remember, I explained this before, how her tactics are very much like a former spokesman for the Church of Scientology, how he flat out admitted what his whole routine was even though he knew that what was being said was true, all the criticisms that he was hearing were absolutely true about what they were engaging in and what he was engaging in personally, and trying to cover over all the bad press. But he'd admit that his whole tactic was to keep deflecting, to keep skirting and sidestepping, and to keep hammering the critic with all sorts of irrelevant information or all sorts of Manini details that have little to nothing to do with the issue at hand, just to get the person who was being critical of the organization so frustrated that they would essentially blow a gasket, and then as a result of that declare victory. It's like, see, that's what our critics are like. See, everybody's out to get us and they're all unstable like that. See, we just proved it again. So suddenly, simply because there was a blow-up, an emotional outburst, the spokesman who was all in defense of his organization, who would actually baited the people into having an emotional reaction like that, get to pat themselves on the back and show the rest of the world, see, that's what we're talking about. Those are the kind of people that we have to deal with. See, wouldn't you rather take our side of the argument as the gospel truth, and that anybody who comes up against us, they're all just a bunch of unstable psychos. You can't trust them. So totally ignore all the facts, totally ignore all the logic, totally ignore all the evidence, but focus on the emotional outburst. And see, that'll prove our argument. That'll prove that we're the ones who have truth on our side. Every time we throw something at them, they refuse to answer it. And throughout this whole beef with this Carrick person, we have seen those same sorts of tactics used over and over and over and over and over again, to where now she's got it so homed in and so filtered now, since everything that she keeps bringing up gets conveniently smacked down, but she has to have something that she keeps holding on to that she thinks is her ace in the hole. And the main thing that she keeps harping on, the one thing that she still has left in her quiver, which she thinks is going to support her argument, which it doesn't, as I've explained 6 jillion times already, but see, that's her tactic, to keep pressing the same issue, which is relevant to nothing. And how is it relevant to nothing? Because, as I kept explaining, the whole reason for this Kara beef goes back to the fact that she has issues with Kernel of Wisdom, and she can't stand the fact that this woman gets the acceptance, gets the praise, gets the honor that she herself wishes she could get. Or maybe she doesn't even wish that she could get it. Maybe just to shoot down a decent, honorable black woman is sufficient enough for this person. But whatever her agenda is, Kernel of Wisdom is a key focus in that agenda. And General Backlash is only along for the ride. And I will be proving that with, again, her own words. But she wants to keep jumping down on this General Backlash is a coward. He didn't step up to ya boy when he was threatening to beat her ass, in reference to Kernel of Wisdom. He went out and he disappeared. He just conveniently dropped off the face of the earth and just let his XO, which means hugs and kisses, and just let her fend for herself. He didn't even come to her defense, and even after he got back online, he still didn't come to her defense. Well, if I may, let me explain it again for the 60 jillionth time. Because how many different times do I have to keep saying the exact same thing over and over and over and over and over again for it to be drilled into your thick skull? When I went on hiatus, and why I went on hiatus, and who I informed I was going on hiatus to, and showing how that all matches with the timeline from when the time that ya boy started taking swipes at Kernel of Wisdom, is again for the 60 jillionth time all detailed in this video upload. Since you pay so much attention to my other uploads, so much so now that you're starting to use some of my very methods to out your ass, and you're trying to apply them to yourself, only to keep falling flat on your face again because you don't know when to tell the truth, and you gotta keep trying to rewrite history. But if you want to know the names, the days, the dates, the times, and the witnesses,
who will actually verify this, who will confirm this, who will back it up. I gave you their names, and I even played the audio portions of what I had sent to them. So that in and of itself is easy enough to verify. It's just that simple. But see, liars and frauds and cowards and charlatans and hypocrites don't like the simple truth, because the simple truth will expose them as the frauds, charlatans, cowards, and hypocrites that they truly are each and every time. So they don't want the truth. They don't want anybody else to know the truth. They just want to repeat a lie and keep repeating a lie in hopes that they'll say the lie often enough and loud enough so that when the person that they're lying against says, hey, if you want the facts, if you want the truth, here, you can go exactly right here. Here, you can look at this documentation. Here, you can listen to this audio. Here, you can go to these people who can bear witness to the truth of these matters. But see, unfortunately, that takes too much work, and we know that people in these forums are a bunch of lazy fucks, especially the ones who are riding on some agenda fraud BS, who pick and choose their teams based on their own personal prejudices and biases and favorite bigotries. That's why they don't want to take the time and effort to find out who's actually telling the truth and who's just spinning shit around to make it look like they're the poor innocent put upon helpless little victim who's just being viciously assaulted and attacked for no reason at all by some cyber bullies. That they were just sitting back minding their own business, chewing the cud, and didn't do even the slightest thing in order to contribute to their own ass burning. And then when the heat gets a little too hot for them, then they want to start running around talking about, why don't you let this drop? Why don't you get off this issue? And then get all their little friends to come along saying the same thing. Why don't y'all stop talking about this? Why don't y'all just let this go? Why don't let's go? Well, gee, isn't it amazing that anytime when somebody stands up to your lies and your slanders, counteracting them with the truth, that's when it's overkill. That's when we ought to just shut down and we ought to just end the conversation right then and there and just let the stuff drop. Interesting that Kara and crew would actually suggest things like that to me, slamming me for daring to defend myself, and yet go over and look at Jeannie Burlesque, and look at all the BS that she has to endure from a whole different network of frauds and charlatans and hate-filled agitators. And yet, I don't hear a single peep from the Butterball Spirits, from the Cunt Huntresses, from the Soul Sisters, from the Thunder 2000s. I don't see now one of you going over there harassing Jeannie Burlesque, telling her, just drop stuff, just let it all drop, stop addressing these people, stop defending yourself. So yeah, you want people to defend themselves against lies and against slander, just not against your lies and against your slander. We call that two-faced hypocrisy, and that game is not allowed to be played on this game field. So you keep pushing ya boy down my throat, hoping that I'll either respond in some sort of a way just to prove that I'm not afraid of him, ooh, just so you can set me up for his minions to come in and do their world-famous flagging campaigns, simply because I call them out on his BS. But seeing that I'm not swallowing that bait, as I said, I'm not a monkey, and neither is Kernel of Wisdom, by the way, whom you for the second time have addressed as my pet chimp. And yet we're supposed to think that you're all pro-black woman, and that your issue with me is because I supposedly hate black women. But no, I won't take your bait like the little monkey that essentially traps itself. But realizing that you can't get me to trap myself that way, you still keep throwing it up in my face because you just want to agitate me. You just want to get me hopping mad that, why won't this bitch just leave it as it is? You know, I don't need to descend to that. All I got to do, again, is just say, here's the video. It contains names, dates, documents, times, timelines, and witnesses. But if that's too much work for y'all, okay, let me break it down for you yet again. When this whole thing between Kernel of Wisdom and ya boy got started, I was already on the road. Do you understand that? When I was on the road, I was not interacting online. Do you get that? So for the whole time that Kernel of Wisdom was having issues with ya boy, I was offline for that entire time, hence addressing one of the issues about why I never ran to her defense. But may I share a little bit of a secret with you? Since you also want to bring up the fact that even after I got back online, I still didn't run to her defense, which again, had you been paying attention, you would have noted, yes, I had. But I didn't come to just Kernel of Wisdom's defense. I came to the defense of several others who oh my gosh, golly gee, what a surprise. They were all black women. Black women, black women, black women. You know, those little things that walk on two legs with various shades of dark skin and various types of kinky hair that I supposedly have this hate fest for. So everybody I got up in defense for against ya boy, each and every time it was in defense of black women. But no, Cunt Huntress wants to focus on the fact that I didn't come out and defend Kernel of Wisdom specifically and exclusively. Okay, fair enough. Again, let me explain why I didn't come to her defense, if that's going to be your issue. It's because, as I've said 60 quadrillion times already, I didn't have to come to her defense because she defended herself and defended herself very effectively. Fuck you very much. So there was really nothing more that I could have added to that situation. She had already shut that whole thing down and was moving on. And essentially, he got the message too, and he moved on. And somewhere in between all that time, your boy did take one singular swipe against me, and I still never heard it for myself. So to this day, I still don't know what he said about me personally. But I had a couple of people inform me and saying, hey, he took a swipe at you. And I go, well, okay, that's fair, because, I'm telling him about himself too, and of course, anybody who tells him about himself, he has to call them out. But he saw that I wasn't that important a target to go after and to keep going after, so he made his little snarky remark, whatever the heck it was, and then moved on and went about his business going on attacking other people, or people that I guess he could get a larger audience from attacking. Because keep in mind, only a small handful of people even bother to find out what the heck's going on with me. So his dropping my name probably did more to give me popularity than anything that I've been doing for the past however damn many years I've been up on this thing. So he wasn't going to get any notoriety from taking swipes at General Backlash. Kernel of Wisdom, of course, different story. So he had to drop her name a few times and say some stink stuff about her. But during the time that he was doing that, I was on the road, dear. And I did not get back online until a couple of months after the fact. Partially by choice, because I could have just as easily gone to anybody's net cafe just to jerk around online. But it was mostly because I had no choice, because I didn't have my computer system set up and I did not have myself connected to the internet. I had to wait for those things in order to start interacting online again. And when I did, by the time that I did, the beef between Kernel of Wisdom and ya boy was already dead and done. But I had a few things to say about him, partially in defense of Kernel of Wisdom, but I did it more as a class action sort of a thing, where I defended not only her, but close to a half dozen other black women, and black women in general. Because even as much as I go against black women and their ratchetness, even I have a certain cutoff point, and there are certain things I will not say to slander them or to defame them in any sort of a way. I try to keep everything on a certain level, which is apparently what Cunt Huntress can't stand, because she's also talking about how I target baby mamas, how I target certain types of black women, and okay, if I have to conditionally acknowledge that, but see, I'll be addressing that in a bit more detail when I set you up for the Mortal Kombat fatality. So ignore all of my past efforts, or keep telling your folks that I never said anything about it, when I show plain as day. It's like, look, there it is. So why do you want to keep listening to this fraud and this charlatan, this lying, cunt-licking cow? How about just stop listening to some running mouth and actually go check the evidence out for yourself? Is that too difficult a proposition? Of course it is. I keep forgetting who I'm asking these questions of. But see, let me show you what kind of a hypocrite and a fraud Cunt Huntress is, or General Fat Ass is. Because she wants to keep dangling this in my face, talking about, see, you didn't respond to this, so that proves that you're a coward, you're scared of this or that, you're a phony and you're a fraud because you only beat up on women because you didn't address this. You didn't defend your XO, and XO means smooches, because this man threatened to beat her ass and you ran and hid. Well, alright, let's play it her way. Let's just wipe that slate clean and rewrite history, and let's just pretend, just for the sake of addressing this BS, that I actually was around, and that I actually was privy to each and every little minute detail that took place. First and foremost, as I said, even if that had been the case, I let Colonel fight her own battles. Were you always running to her defense? No, not always. Just like she doesn't always run to my defense. But there are times I can drop something that'll further strengthen her argument or her position. There are times she'll do the same for me. But if you ever notice, if you ever track our history and look at who we get engaged in we don't engage with the same people, if you ever noticed. Occasionally we do, but generally speaking, when we engage with subscribers or we get on certain discussions and whatnot, we're usually off doing our own thing, and we're handling our own business. Now, if one decides they want to get in on the game and drop some of their knowledge on there, well, there have been times I've been told by Colonel of Wisdom, General, please don't respond to this, or I don't want you saying anything about this because I want to handle this. Again, addressing that whole General Backlash and Colonel of Wisdom are collaborating with each other. Well, that right there is proof positive enough that we're not always collaborating with everything. And in fact, the closest we've ever come to collaborating was with the latest upload that I put on the Wisdom Backlash channel, which, yes, was originally designed to be a collaboration project channel. Once I saw Colonel was getting comfortable with uploading videos of her own, I had already envisioned us doing collaborative projects together, but I wanted to set it aside on its own separate channel. I informed her of this and I said, hey, what do you think about this idea? And she smacked the idea down. She says, no, I don't want to do that. And so the channel had been sitting dormant ever since until I utilized it in this last instance. And that's the closest thing we've ever done to a collaboration, with the exception of the little prior expose of I Say This with Herpes, who decided to vanish off the face of the earth because she got just a little taste of her own medicine, which is how this mess with Kara got started in the first place, because she was trying to sniff up into that crotch so deep that her whole I don't want to say her whole attitude and her whole personality changed, because prior to that, she was having some issues with International Booby. So this has always been part of her character, and of course we're getting word from some of the people who are former associates with her, essentially verifying the same thing. But yeah, had I actually done the one thing which she keeps faulting me for not doing, as though she's really concerned about it, but let's just say, just for the sake of this example, that I did absolutely everything that she said I should have done. As phony a concern as that is, but let's just go with it. So in our new scenario, I went after ya boy for threatening to beat up my daughter or my girlfriend or my niece or my cousin or my mom or whatever flavor of the month she thinks she is at the time. But I went out there and I did exactly what she said I should have done. That would have kept her quiet, right? What did Lex Luthor say in Superman Returns? Because what she would have done, had that been the case, is exactly what she's trying to do now with this whole thing about you and Colonel of Wisdom are always collaborating with each other. Y'all are always comparing notes with each other. Y'all are always ganging up on people. Y'all are always doing things together. See how a slimy snake's mind works? It would not have mattered what I had done or what I had not done. It all amounts to the same thing with this fraud. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Either way, she comes out trying to smell like the winner. And that's the way agenda frauds operate. They always want to be put in a position where they can flip a script around on you just so it can make you look like the dishonorable one. Butterball Spirit, I'm talking to you now. Because remember what I told you about Kara? How she likes to stab you folks in the back once you start getting a little bit of brain about yourselves? And as I said in one of my earlier uploads, you said just enough to let it be known that you're starting to rethink that fraud. Now whether she picked up on it or not, I don't know. It ain't my Cooliana. I don't care. But if she did, watch your back. Because you heard what she said about me and Colonel of Wisdom in this last upload of hers that I'm responding to now? Did you hear clearly how she described us? Referring to us as almost white and using it in a derogatory fashion. And you remember what I told you about you not being black yourself and yet schmoozing in on black issues and issues about black men and issues about black people? And you're going to hang around this demon, cunt huntress, General Fatass? I told you, you're hanging with the wrong crowd. They have already set the pattern, and I'm warning you, even as we speak, they are sharpening their blades to plunge deep between your scapula. So you can keep taking your little nasty swipes at me all you want to, but when the fit hits the shan, and when the hammer drops for real, you will remember that I tried to warn you. But oh, before I go, one of the latest tactics that General Fatass Cunt Huntress is trying to use now, thinking that it's going to shame us or humiliate us or put us on the defensive again and all this other hoopty-doo stuff. Now she's going around talking about how Colonel of Wisdom ain't got no man and how General Backlash ain't got no woman. And what she uses as her evidence? Nothing, actually. But okay, I'll bite. If you want to launch that accusation against Colonel of Wisdom, you know, you've got a wide open field for speculation. General Backlash, on the other hand, you want to pull stuff out of thin air as your proof or your evidence that I don't have a woman in my life. Gee, interesting how that during the recordings of some of those previous uploads that I made in defense of myself and Kernel of Wisdom against you, and I say this with diarrhea breath, that my girlfriend could clearly be heard hacking her lungs up in the background from hay fever. What was that, some magic trick or something, or... And of course there was that emotional video upload that I had done, which you yourself referenced, cunt hunter, General Fat Ass. So how is it that you're going to reference a video upload of mine, which gives clear indication that I am involved in an intimate relationship with a woman, and yet you're going to make some asinine declaration about, I don't have a woman in my life? And of course there's some mystical, magical explanation for it. Oh, I was watching TV in the background, so the coughing that you heard was coming from the TV or the radio, or, oh, that emotional upload that I posted about a family tragedy, oh, that was just reciting lines for a play that I was auditioning for. Yeah. Alright then, so how do you explain this then? Photograph taken just this morning, just so that I could show the whole world. Oh my goodness, golly gee, how did all these girly items get into my bedroom lying here on top of my double bed? I mean, look at all this stuff. Panties and bras and leggings and lipstick and hair goop and all this other good stuff. Shoot, the only things missing are her Sprintech birth control pills, and the only reason those aren't here is because they're in her purse at work. She took them to the job site with her. If they had been here, I would have photographed those too. So where did all these girly items come from? I mean, they must have just inexplicably just materialized out of thin air. Oh, I know, a wizard did it.
But you know, I've got so much more I gotta say about you and about your little sneaky methods and everything, but that's clearly going to have to wait. But trust me, it's going to expose your ass once and for all, and it's going to prove my very point, which stated clearly that the only reason that you're hating on General Backlash is because you can't stand the fact that I chose a black woman as my tag team partner who actually stands up to frauds and charlatans like you. And again, as always, I will be doing it all with your own words. Get the Mortal Kombat theme cued and ready to spin, because now it's showtime.